All right, this is an important part, you guys. So Aristotle's coming out and he's talking about celestial bodies and basically first cause, the thing that connects everything, and also basically drives everything by itself, sort of being something that basically is for everybody, which in a sense makes it for nobody. And it's this pure thought that he concludes is the direct motion of all things and all beings. And his wife Pythias comes in and interrupts him before he says that the celestial bodies are actual beings. So basically he's saying that it's love, but I think the way in which this even can be elevated more is then by saying that I think true love is for nobody. So then, in that sense, the system is for no one. And I think that their representation of why it was that he was interrupted before saying it was because he would introduce new gods into their realms. I think that that's just the way that things move through the stars. Is the stars that you're most comfortable with are things that seem to be fading, like their light has already reached you, but traveling through space you're waiting for the light that you've never seen. That's almost how light kind of works. And I know that I talked yesterday about the idea of a circle. It's kind of just like the idea that as this circle or sphere basically comes to the conclusion that everything goes around. And I think their mechanism here is kind of witty, a cog is sort of a square round almost. But if the circle is truly open, like a circle alludes to, then basically every circle is just a continuation of a point. And since we're talking about values of infinity here, basically a circle with relation to the infinite nature of pi would most certainly be a line. If a circle was something that was open, but a circle itself is a point, and the moment in which we perceive the circle, we actually see the line. But using our minds, we can perceive that the circle and line is always open, which leaves things open-ended. And I think that kind of relates a lot to his thought here almost. It's like if you square it off, in a sense, you're not allowing things to basically be open. And at that point in time, I think you can sort of square the circle. Because if a thing is open, then I think you're describing it as pretty plain. And right there, you can almost basically overlay a square with a circle, and basically just by that illusion of seeing the dancer spinning in opposite directions, or seeing a vase or a figure, you can see the square and the circle sort of dance between each other. Because if a circle truly is a circle, it's always open. And something that's always open is fairly plain. And the most plain thing is obviously a square, which doesn't harbor any intention. So yeah, when he goes on to say that the unmoving prime mover, because it is perfect, is admirable, it therefore represents the first heaven, an object of love and desire. That is the reason for its motion. But again, I say that love is for no one. And so then, as we're seeing this square and circle interplay here, we could then basically bridge the gap between love and hate, and saying that true love hates everyone. Why is that? Because it is unattainable as attraction. And I like this part here where they say, you have certainly grasped that the unmoving prime mover touches the first heaven, which does not in turn alter the prime mover. That's like saying her beauty touched me, but I didn't touch her. Which is sort of interesting, because then you can, I think, sort of play off a lot of different notions of things ever even existing, or if it's just all in the mind of the prime mover. And so basically, by seeing it, you are in a sense bug out here. First mark on the book, everybody. They are an look, nature marked it for me. It's the first mark on the pages, actually. The blood of a gnat. If I'm just making mention of things. But then, yeah, I think sort of as you see it, things can be real and not real at the same time. You know, seeing is believing. Basically, you know, a lot of these sayings sort of work off each other, like fat chance. The other day I said fate and chance are basically the same thing, out of your control. You know, the idea of seeing is believing, because at that point in time, once we reduce things to this level, it is this idea that belief is something that's never been, but you can see how almost anything has never been. And then at that moment, you can sort of touch everything for an instant. You know, just as much as love and attraction creates jealousy, which in turn creates hate, it's just seeing that circle that's open. and that the square is open before it is plain. And I think that's sort of how you describe the inflection most aptly, basically, that I was describing earlier. It's where a point is moving. It creates a dynamic where each thing is recognized. Basically, the observation of anything creates this dynamic of everything opening up at a point. But if the first heaven desires something, that would imply that the celestial bodies are capable of developing emotions and are thus beings. It's basically just another play of the tie-ins and of new versus old that we're witnessing kind of right here. And just the recognition of somebody that everybody thought was maybe perhaps in support of the truth, which is maybe immovable, is then describing the fact that they themselves are vulnerable to what is personal, perhaps. And again, love is attraction. The greater the love, the greater the attraction. Which I think can basically rest right up to the point where this can all open up. The tip of the spear is actually engulfing things. It doesn't actually pierce them. It opens up and channels things down like a lightning rod, capable of grounding things. And this love is for no one, which is hate. Because that is attraction. You are only attracted to what you cannot have, which in turn sets in motion everything. And then he basically sort of is on the brink of just madness for a moment. But then he sort of calms himself down. For the God of philosophy doesn't create, nor destroy, nor judge, nor punish. It's not interested in human affairs. Which is why I say, like earlier today, the stairway to heaven is just a polished marble hill, and you are completely naked. Which are the conditions of basically trying to be yourself and be the highest point. You must find the exact right notion of contact for things to actually grip, which I described as being able to grab a hold of the dust, of the chiseling of the thing itself. Which all dust is an opening of this sphere. It basically simultaneously points everywhere. Which then you could say you are always on top of this mount. You are always naked. Though, what would you say? Can you remain open, even while standing at the precipice? Can you say that you love, even though true love is for no one? Are they right? Will it stay the god of philosophers? So today's reading, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope I gave you some great visuals to perceive and not only behold within yourself, as perhaps maybe you opened up, or as you beheld the mountain, as it were. Maybe a cone of polished marble in which you are trying to climb, almost imposes some great nature itself, completely naked and unequipped. Perhaps the men are jealous. After all, what drives them to not see new things anyways? Perhaps it is jealousy, passing judgments.